Hi everyone, I'm Shelly from There's No Place Like Home at redheadmom8.wordpress.com. I was trying to think of what topic I was going to use for this month's Patreon video, and I finally settled on a question that someone actually asked me way back last year. So today I'm going to talk about conspiracy theories and homeschooling. Last year, before YouTube disabled my comments, someone actually posed a question to me in one of my videos. I don't remember which video it was, but they asked me, what if homeschoolers decide to teach their kids conspiracy theories? And I thought that was an interesting question. I thought it was an odd question, but I did think that it was an interesting question. And interesting enough that I'm actually making a video about it today. So first of all, let's look at this. What is a conspiracy theory? A conspiracy theory to most people is a ludicrous idea or theory coming from people who wear tinfoil hats, people who are a little, cuckoo and who don't have anything better to do than to sit in their mother's basement and think up the weirdest stuff they possibly could. That is the mainstream idea of what a conspiracy theory is. But the conspiracy theory, the term was actually coined by the CIA. And it was coined by the CIA because there were certain topics that they did not want to be questioned by the public. They didn't want to upset the official narrative. So what they did was they kind of had people start looking down at certain things so that they wouldn't even think of researching further. One good example of that is smoking. So decades ago, it was considered a conspiracy theory to say that smoking caused cancer. And so here we have proof that back in 2020, that conspiracy theory is a fact. So, it's something that we really don't want to scoff at too much because some of the things that people talk about might have some truth to them. Now, I'm not saying that all of them have truth to them, but some of them certainly might. So some things that are considered conspiracy theory nowadays are like flat earth, moon landing hoax, climate change skeptics are considered to be conspiracy theorists, chemtrails, the vaccine safety movement. And these, again, are things that it really does seem like the upper echelon does not want you to look into these things on your own. Again, I'm not saying that any of these things are 100% true, but what I am saying is that what we have seen is that there does seem to be some censorship going on in certain areas, and you do have to question why. And I think it's really important as homeschooling parents that you do teach your kids to question things. There are a lot of things that are taught in school that you might not consider to be conspiracy theories, but they certainly don't align with what a lot of people actually believe. Things like evolution, climate change, toxic masculinity, feminism, gender and sexuality issues. These are all things that are taught in most schools nowadays. I might say all schools, but I can't be 100% sure about that. But these are things that are taught to children, but they're not given both sides of an issue. They are taught that this is the way that this looks. This is what you are supposed to think about things. People who are smarter than you have already figured all this stuff out, and that's that. And that is the way that things are taught in school. But again, as homeschooling parents, we should want more for our kids. We don't want our kids to be those children who just, are able to spout off facts that were fed to them in school. We want our children to have the knowledge and the tools to be able to research and look into things, because you know what? We're not always told the truth about everything. And I think the whole example of cigarettes don't cause cancer, I think that is a really great example of that. So whether you believe in conspiracy theories or not, I was thinking that it might actually be a fun way to teach critical thinking to your older kids. Now, I certainly wouldn't say to have, your like 5-year-old or your 8-year-old looking into these things. But if you do have some teenage kids who show an interest in it, you could actually start to use some of these conspiracy theory topics to have your kids learn critical thinking skills. Because again, that's not something that's taught in school. Critical thinking is not taught in school. They say that it is, but if you actually look at the things that they're doing, the kids, it's the opposite of what is happening. So some things that your kids might learn as they're doing these things, they might be able to learn and understand the difference between search engines. Because nowadays, yes, if you type one thing into a search engine and then you go to another search engine and type something in, you are going to see that you might get some really different results. And what has been happening is that there is some censorship going on in certain search engines. Other search engines might give preference to the people who pay them. So that is one way that your kids can actually get a look at how things are weighed and how they might be biased. It might also help them to learn how to find the least biased sources. And you know, way back when, it used to be that you would want to try to find unbiased sources. But unfortunately, I don't think that that exists anymore. I have not found a source in a really, really, really long time that does not lean one way or the other. And that's unfortunate, but that's where we're at. So now it's about helping your kids to find the least biased sources. People who don't have something to gain from it, people who are not making like an extraordinary amount of money from it, people who might not have ulterior motives to have something pushed. If you look into certain sources and find that this is the case, then you might not want to use them as a reliable source. So yeah, you have to teach your kids that they do need to question some sources. And you know, even for example, there are doctors, and I know YouTube isn't going to like this, but my doctor, my pediatrician, told me to go and look on the CDC website for information about vaccines when I told her that I was not going to continue the Gardasil vaccine and I was not going to give my kids the flu shot the last time that we were there. And so she told me to go on the CDC website to get some reliable information. And you know, the average person would say, yeah, I'm going to go straight to the source. I'm going to go to the CDC. But a little bit of research into the CDC helps you to realize that they have over 20 patents out on vaccines. They make money off the vaccine business. So in that aspect, they are probably not a very good resource when it comes to that area. Now, when you're teaching your kids how to look into these conspiracy theories, they will learn how to compare and contrast two views. Again, kids in school aren't taught two views, but if you have your kids look at two sides of an issue, this is what the mainstream believes, this is what another group of people believes. I want you to figure out which ones make more sense, which ones have the most evidence, and you know, you could make it turn into a term paper, you could have them do a chart, or you could just have them do some sort of research project on their own. How you have them do it is really up to you, but learning to compare and contrast both sides of an issue is so important because you cannot make an educated decision about anything if you don't know both sides. And another thing about going into and learning these conspiracy theories is that it encourages your kids to ask deep questions, and they don't have to accept anything as 100% fact without evidence. There are a lot of things taught in school as fact that does not have the evidence to back it up. And yet, since it follows that narrative, it's not questioned. And you have generations of people believing things that really there is not scientific evidence for, at least not sufficient scientific evidence to say that it's 100% true. Teach your kids to understand that. Teach your kids to understand that unless there is something that can actually be followed by the scientific method, then it is not the case. Now, I'm talking about material things. I'm talking about in the world. I am not talking about biblical things or faith. Yes, I definitely believe that the Bible is 100% true. And I know that a lot of people who do not have a faith, who are not believers, they would scoff at that. But you know what? You won't understand that until you have been touched by God on your own. And there's really nothing that I can do to help someone who wouldn't understand that. But that's not what we're talking about today anyway. But I wanted to add that caveat because I'm here saying that you don't know that anything is 100% true. But I do believe the Bible is 100% true. But that is a bit off topic. So anyway, in the end, when your kids are learning about these conspiracy theories, and let them pick one. Now, I wouldn't let them go off the deep end because there are some that are way out there and you probably don't want your kids looking into them at all. I, as an adult, don't want your kids looking, or don't want myself to look into a lot of things. But if your kids choose one and they find it interesting, let them look into it. And it will help them to learn that they have to be able to make educated conclusions about things. And it's not just about conspiracy theories. You have to be able to make educated conclusions about everything. Because again, there are a lot of things presented to us in everyday life that we're not given the evidence for, and we're just expected to trust. But we've gotten to the point in our lives, or in our era, where we're beginning to realize that maybe that's not what we should always be doing. So, back to the question, what if homeschoolers decide to teach their kids conspiracy theories? I certainly wouldn't recommend them teaching their kids only conspiracy theories and focusing solely on conspiracy theories, or only giving one side of the conspiracy theory, like the school does. They give one side of certain issues, and, you could worry that there will be parents who believe certain conspiracy theories and would only present their kids with those facts. But if a homeschooling parent is going to do this in a way that is balanced and is going to teach their kids critical thinking skills, I think that it might be a fun, and who knows, maybe even a surprising way to educate your kids. Anyway, that's all that I have for you today. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one over on Instagram, unless YouTube still has my comments on. I just never know anymore. And if you like my work and would like to check out my Patreon page, I will leave a link in the description box for that as well. And I hope you have a great day.